bang wheels. Excellent stuff. Max Schilling's up to the back. Oh, it's contact by the back. Several carts involved.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Infinity IAME Series Asia Karting Series 2025. We are back once again for more exciting drama here today and again tomorrow. And once more, we're in the land of smiles in Thailand on the beautiful Bira circuit in the city of Pattaya. Now, last time out in round 4, we had a lot of excitement and drama, as well as a lot of tension and badinage. But it's given us a really interesting setup for the last 2 weekends of the season. Coming into the event, we've got the cadets ready to do battle, and after race victories in the finals already this year from Hirotsu, Max Schillings, and the championship leader Jay Kostecki, there's a lot to do in these last 2 weekends, and a whole host of drivers that want to take a victory or two away from them. But that's only in the cadets. In the Masters, we've got a head-to-head battle between Werasak Aimwachan and Harith Bin Zadalo, who's got a new chassis this weekend, the Carlos Sainz 55 chassis. Then we've got a great battle in the junior category as well, as the bid to catch Conrad Garrow continues to accelerate for the likes of Danish Chen, Andrea Gallimberti and Jack Larson. And even now Sera Kojima, who won her first heat last time out, has a chance to throw the cat amongst the pigeons and go for the title, as does the Malaysian Leonardo Mori. As well as that, in the senior X30 category, we've got a fantastic battle brewing as well, because there's an amazing championship battle in senior, because now we've got the 2 Gale brothers, Toby and Austin, sitting out the last 2 rounds of the championship. That means the current championship leader, Toby Gale, is no longer competing in the 2025 series. That effectively gives the championship lead back to Yuka Po in the PR1 team. Now that's going to interesting challenge for him, because now he's going to go head-to-head with the likes of Kimi Chan and obviously the front runners along the likes of Zadiev Raikal. Interesting. Since the Gale brothers, now we've got a really intriguing test as to who's got the mentality to go for broke. We're back on the Bira circuit, but it's a completely different layout to what we had at round 4 of the championship. That was very tight, that was very technical, it was very twisty and flowy. This is all about speed. We've reconfigured the circuit layout to make it fast and flat out. So the gearing is a completely different setup for all of the drivers here. They're not thinking about this in the way that they were at round 4 of the championship. So everything has had to be completely changed in terms of setup. Looking out towards the area ready in time for the time trial as well. There are a few changes this weekend. Martin Bean is our race director, getting himself ready there to send everybody off in position. And of course, we've got a few new drivers into the mix. Now, some of them are returning, some of them are testing the water to try and figure out if they're going to do a full campaign in 2026. And some are using this as an opportunity for a little mini break with a little bit of racing thrown in. We've got more Masters than we've ever had, 6 in total for this one. We've got a decent grid of drivers in all 3 of the other categories, and it'll be fascinating to see how the battle rocks on. Don't forget, we've got 50 trophies to give out this weekend, because we've got the top 5 in Master, Cadet, Junior and Senior, and then of course we've got to do it all again in IAME, Thailand, and there are Cadet rookie titles on offer as well. So that's 10 podium ceremonies over the course of the weekend. It's going to be a very exciting fight. We've got 8 races coming up today in Cadet, Junior, Master and Senior, and of course before we get underway with any of those, we've got the time trials. Let's bring it on. So everybody is now getting themselves ready and prepared for the start of the time trials. A few new faces this weekend as well, which always makes for an entertaining challenge. rounds that will send onto the circuit. The heat in the approximating battle right from the outset then. How the race will fare after these 6 minutes. They'll know whether it's going to be a weekend or whether it's going to be a straightforward weekend. But these 6 minutes of qualifying on just how composed and challenged they've been. There's been a couple of days of free practice, but only one official practice session, and that was this morning. And it's worth pointing out that in the driver's briefing earlier today, there were a few things that were mentioned that definitely need to be on the minds of the drivers. Track limits are going to be very heavily regulated over the course of this weekend, particularly on the final turn. So for qualifying, they've got to make sure that they're going to keep all four inside. They will be capable of, as it were. There's also going to be scrutiny on the start. Everything's going to be just so. And anybody who's watched the FIA weekends, well, I should really say the IAME European Series and Champions of the Future weekends, make sure that the rule book is followed to the letter. And also what's being implemented for this weekend is the note in the regulations that if there are 2 false starts, the drivers on the front row of the grid for failing to get the start right on 2 occasions in a row can actually be sent to the back of the starting grid for races. So that's going to be imposed over the course of this weekend. It's there clear as day. And the drivers as they prepare for an intense battle on the course. So only 6 minutes then before qualifying. That means that everybody's got to be on their best behaviour and also got to leave nothing in doubt on the table to try and get the fast time. Andrea Galimberti opens the floodgates, 51.378. Second already, quicker than anybody else out there on the course. Aryan Singh, the South African who's taking part this weekend. We've got drivers from all across the Asian Peninsula as well as across Europe, Australasia, Africa and even the Americas represented here this weekend. So it's not just an Asian series anymore, it is a truly intercontinental challenge. Jack Larson currently in 3rd place in front of Kevin Max Sir. And then Chris Kasemsa for the Bangkok has gone up into 6th place. Now Leonardo Mori 3rd from Jack Larson, Aryan Singh, Max Sir and Dang Abdul Abraman. And then Danish Chen, and Nathan Anthony Arya, and then Nadalan Jitanga. But a few of the drivers have yet to put their fast times down, including the likes of Conrad Garrow, who crosses the line now. What does Conrad Garrow do in terms of his time? He's not improved yet, so either that or the timing screen hasn't updated. I'm willing to prepare that willing to believe it's the other one of those incidents, because his time has not yet updated on my screen. At a reasonable rate at the moment. Starting to find some decent pace on the course. 3rd is Leonardo Mori in front of Jack Larson. Danish P6 in front of Max Sir as Aryan Singh goes up into 5th position. The South African for Fireball now puts himself up into the top 5. Still waiting for the big moment from Conrad Garrow, who's down at the bottom at the moment, having only done 2 laps onto the circuit, along with Andrea Galimberti, I believe. So the 2 of them ended up waiting right at the bottom end. Now his times have been updated in his 10th. So Conrad Garrow trying to work his way forward. I think it might actually have been a transponder issue rather than Conrad getting out late. But certainly the times were not updating on my screen. As Andrea Galimberti goes faster still, 50.969 in front of Kojima and Mori, then Jack Larson and Aryan Singh from Chris Kasemsa and Danish Chen. So Galimberti, Kojima, Mori, Kasemsa, Chen and Larson, then Aryan Singh and Max Sir from Kevin Subhavanichinon and the Rad Racing driver Conrad Garrow, the Arrow, down in 10th position at this moment in time, the championship leader. So that's a dramatic position if that's where he's going to stay. He comes off the final turn now. And so what is Conrad Garrow going to be able to give us? He goes 9th quickest. So the Singaporean not on the pace at the moment. So very difficult to know where that pace has gone. Already 5 minutes gone, so this is definitely not in the script for Conrad Garrow, as the championship leader finds himself down in 9th place. No worries at all for Andrea Galimberti, who is yet again the fastest man at the moment, and about to go quicker still. He does, 50.929. It's pretty much the same time he'd said already, to be fair. As Jack Larson now goes up into 3rd place, just in behind Sera Kojima, who is once again very fast around this Bira circuit. Then Mori in 4th place behind them. Kasemsup Subhavanichinon now into 6th place, ahead of Danish Chen. So another difficult weekend for Danish Chen. 7th position so far. But he really doesn't need this complicated a weekend. He needs something to be a little bit more easygoing than this. Subhavanichinon now in front of Chris Kasemsup, up into 5th position. So it's Galimberti, Kojima, Larson, Mori, Subhavanichinon and Chris Kasemsup at the moment. From Danish Chen, Aryan Singh, Conrad in 10th, and the is going out. So now the first one to cross it is going to be time. It's going to be beaten as across the line there are. Max Tsur has gone quicker than Conrad Garrow to go back into 9th position. And we're waiting for the drivers to cross the line to see if there are any major changes in the lineup. But I don't think there's going to be many shuffles in the deck here. So we're going to get a fairly dramatic first grid of the weekend in the junior category as across the line the drivers go, and Conrad Garrow's already bailed. He's already come into the pits and parked it down in 10th position. Well, what a dramatic start then for the championship leader in Junior X30, as Andrea Galimberti, who is currently 3rd in the points rankings, I do believe. Oh no, sorry, 4th in the points rankings, because of course he missed the first round of the championship, but he was the race winner in round 3 and round 4, had that dramatic DNF, if you remember, going into the final at round 2, so lost a significant amount of points there. But for Galimberti, he's fighting to get himself into the championship lead here by consistency and strong victories. But it's not going to be too easy. But what he has got at the moment is both reliability and speed. So it's definitely a difficult day at the office for Conrad Garrow, down in 10th position. So the provisional results then of the junior time trial, Andrea Galimberti and Sera Kojima, the fastest 2 drivers at the moment, ahead of Jack Larson and Leonardo Mori. Another strong weekend for the Malaysian in Australian Jack Larson. Then the 2 ties, Kevin Subhavanichinon and Chris Kasemsup. And then we have Danish Chen, the Singaporean, 7th place ahead of good effort from the South African on his first race weekend of the season. And then in 9th position, we have Max Tsur ahead of Conrad Garrow, all the way down in 10th position in the junior time trial. That is a shock for the championship leader, and not the way he would have wanted to start the weekend at all. Nadal Imjit Panya is 11th position, and in 12th place it is Sedapach Ketsuwan, the Thai driver for Forza Motorsport by P1. Then Daing Abdul Rahman ahead of Nathan Anthony Arya, 2 new drivers in the field. Guho Tian ahead of Michael Lederer, really struggling for pace in the Auto Inc. Kart Republic. And then Sahil Singh, who joins us again after his one-off foray in Malaysia at the end of the first half of the season. And then Santok Singh, who's also returned, and the new boy, Tus Muangsiri, who is for the MRC racing team from Thailand, 19th of the 19 runners. So, a very interesting battle then in Junior X30 in the time trials, but there's a lot more still to come, as we have the next battle out on the circuit, ready in time for the competition in the cadets. They're going to come out next, and it's a very competitive battle in cadets this weekend, as we have come to realize and come to understand quite regularly now in the cadet category. 29 drivers in total, 10 of which are also bidding to be the leading cadet rookie. So there's 2 competitions within competitions. And then, of course, you've got to remember as well that not only do we have Cadet and Cadet Rookie in IAME Series Asia, we also have the IAME Series Thailand points that get to be considered, because IAME Series Thailand is made up of the final 3 weekends of this year's championship, with, of course, all 3 of those weekends taking place here on the Bira circuit. It's the second different layout, so it is eligible for an IAME Series Thailand points tally. A few new faces this weekend, but this is the most international weekend that we have had so far in the 2025 campaign, because not only do we have drivers from across the Asian Peninsula, we also have drivers from Oceania, from Africa, from Europe, and from the Americas. It's a truly international competition, and this is meant to be a regional championship, so it's amazing to see just how many drivers from across the world have chosen to come and compete here on the Bira circuit for round 5 of the INFINITY IAME Series Asia. Some A new experience. Some are trying to get their bearings for 2026, and others are returning to the series, having had to focus on their studies rather than their racing. But it's really good to see all the drivers heading out onto the circuit. 29 of them will take to the track now for the 6 minutes of qualifying. You only get 6 minutes, so you've got to make good use of that time. And so all the drivers out there will make as much as they possibly can out of the cadet battle. So we're going to see a lot of decent drivers out on the course. A lot of new faces. These two are new faces, Mohammed Falik and Kenzi Erizananda. So Kenzi Erizananda from Indonesia, he's going to be one of the new faces on the circuit. And out onto the circuit comes the 24 to lead the field out. And once the 24 leaves the pits, that is the very talented Jaden Javier from the Philippines. Once he makes the move to get out there, that's the cue for everybody else to go and join in. So many of the drivers just waiting until a few seconds had elapsed to give themselves a little bit of track time and a little bit of space out there on the course before they venture out onto the track. It's green flags, so they've got to push and go for it. They've also been told by the race director, Mr. Martin Bean, that if they roll over, as it were, or kind of wait and hold the field up in the qualifying session, then he has it within his power to stop the session. We didn't have any problems like that in the juniors, which is good, but certainly in the cadet free practice sessions, I witnessed a couple of moments on the Thursday and the Friday, so it's worth bearing in mind that there will be no tolerance for that over the course of the time trials. The drivers have been told very clearly in the race briefing, you've got 6 minutes, get out there, do your qualifying lap and take the checkered flag. And it's very simple, don't do anything else. So the competitors just getting themselves up to speed here on the Bira circuit. You can tell how quick the arable land grows around here because that grass was trimmed down to thin blades 4 weeks ago, and now it's already shot up to almost be level at the same height as the tyres. But this is a fantastic part of the country. This is proper Thailand, as it were, a little bit out into the beaten track. A fabulous location. The Bira circuit opened in 1986 for both karting and cars in tribute to the former Grand Prix driver, the Prince of Siam, who raced in Formula One, Prince Bira, all the way back in the 1940s and 50s, competing before Formula One was even a World Championship event. And he sadly passed away in 1985. The circuit was built in commemoration of him, and so much brilliant racing has taken place here in what is now its 40th season. So next year they will celebrate 40 years of this fantastic circuit. Posh Gongchol and Pawin Warakatsipachok are currently out on the circuit setting the pace. And Posh Gongchol's time is a 57.01. It's a much faster lap this, even though it's slightly shorter in layout. It's a faster lap because there's a lot more straight lines. The drivers and mechanics have been telling me that you've got to set the karts up completely differently to how you do in round 4, because it's all about top end speed here rather than about mechanical grip. So Posh Gongchol is currently on the top spot. The only driver that hasn't set a lap yet is Patabol Kalkan Janaset, or Porsche as he is known. So we're still waiting to see the hard pace from Posh Gongchol. 57.01 for him at the moment, in front of Pawin Warakatsipachok, then Jake Kostecki, championship leader, ahead of Mason Kwong and Sedachak Ongbongnoi, then Liban Lewis Kanan in front of Hiro Tse. Drivers from all over Asia in this particular championship, as well as welcoming Blake Tsuer, who is actually from the United States. He was born and raised in Palo Alto, California. And he races in WSK out in Italy amongst various other categories, so it's great to have a truly international competitor racing in the Infinity IAME Series Asia this particular weekend, coupled with SKT in the IAME Series Thailand. So it's going to be a truly fantastic run again from Posh Gongchol. Still on the top spot though. He really has regained his form. He had a bit of a hiccup last time out. He was initially the quickest, and then it all started to fall apart through the weekend. So hopefully they've got on top of things this time. Pawin Warakatsipachok is in second place for the Wara race team. Great to see them competing for the first in Infinity IAME Series Asia, the team that runs energy courses here in Asia. So it's good to welcome the Wara race team into Infinity IAME Series Asia, and they're already on the pace in second position with their driver Pawin Warakatsipachok, Jake Kostecki and Mason Kwong third and fourth. That's good news for Mason Kwong, who didn't have the pace in round 4, certainly does now. Sirachak Ongbanoy, the lady driver, doing a great job, currently in 5th position, right up in the sharp end on her first weekend in the category. So really good to see that she's making a very strong debut here. Hirod Sir in front of Libin Lewis Kanan, and then Chinafat and Tanawarat Vejabuti, the brothers, ahead of Kaylin Delsey, who was the leading cadet rookie last time out. And then it's Ollie Tsur in front of Blake Tsur. So great to see how they're getting on. Blake Tsur in his first weekend in the championship, just currently in 12th position at this moment in time. 13th place currently is Mohammed Wibawo, and then it is Maximilian Schilling. And then we have Saharat ahead of Kalkan Janaset. So Porsche has now started to set the pace. So some really good performances across the board now as drivers are starting to settle into that rhythm. So everybody just trying to find that little bit of pace. The checkered flag is out though on the course, so it looks as though it's going to be Posh Kong Chol that will hold the top spot. For Giorgio becomes one of the first drivers to cross the line. George Patrizzi, the Australian. So we're just going to see how everybody has finished off. Posh Kong Chol, 57.010. He gets the pole position by 75 thousandths of a second, unless somebody can take that away in the very last moment. But it's certainly looking very good indeed for Posh Kong Chol. I think that is going to be a sensational race victory in the time trial for Posh Kong Chol to grab pole position at the very last moment of the session. A few drivers trying to change that, but it looks to me as though all the competitive lap times have now come in. And so it is going to be Posh Kong Chol at the top spot. Very impressive work from the Thai. So Mr. Posh is Mr. Pole at the moment. Posh Kong Chol doing a fair job there. Pole position in front of Pawin Ravakat-Supachok. Jake Kostecki in 3rd in front of Mason Kwong. And then Sirachak Ongbanoy ahead of Hirod Sir. Liban Lewis Kanan, Chinapat Vejabuti, Tanawarat Vejabuti crossing the line to finish in 9th place. So the two brothers who challenged for the wins last time out, very close in the top 10 once again. And in 10th position, behind those two, it is Kaylin Delsey, the leading cadet rookie. Then Oliver Tsur, Blake Sue, Mohammed Farwibowo, Max Schilling. Then it is Setafarat Tirapatabuwong, who is currently in 15th position, I think. That's, is that right? No, my apologies. It's actually Sahara Lepresepacorn, who is currently in 15th position. 16th place for Patabalkak and Janaset. Then it is Jaden Gabriel Arya. Then it is Sriatapat Tirapatabuwong. And then we have Jaden Javier in front of Putipong in 19th position, I think that is. Putipong Wangnapachan, who is 19th position as far as I'm aware, after a very strong run. Is it 19th? No, 20th, my apologies. Then it's Prin Vonkabon in front of Babe, or as she is also known, Nutsarang Rangwastanakul. Siabo Basalama in front of the 44, Jerek Sutivitanarosh. And then in the 13th row of the starting grid for these qualifying heats, because these time trials set the grids for Heat 1 and Heat 2 later this afternoon, it is going to be Marshall Liu, 25th, not having a great run there by his standards. He'll be quite disappointed, I think, with that particular run. And that will put him in 25th ahead of George Patrizzi. And then it is Mohamed Falik ahead of Kenzie Everzananda. And then at the back of the field, it is going to be Joshua Tan, who sets a 58.7 compared to Posh Kong Chol on a 57.0. That's 29 drivers separated by 1.7 seconds. That is absolutely astonishing. And if you think it was a 58, it was a 58 of, what was it, a 57.0, all the way down to a 58.0 for the top 26 drivers. That's 26 drivers covered by a second. Very impressive work indeed then. From our cadets, and it shows you just how competitive things are. So the competitors are getting themselves geared up, ready for the next qualifying session, and that is going to be for our grid of Masters. So the Masters are getting themselves geared up for the session. Now, it's quite a nice moment for the Masters because this is their biggest qualifying grid of the season so far. 6 competitors as the Masters grows once again. After the fantastic battle that we had in round 3 of the championship in Malaysia, and then of course a really decent battle last time out, it's good to see that we've got 6 competitors on the starting grid in Master X30 this time. All 4 of the drivers that competed in round 4 are back. So Wedasak Ayamwachan, Ayamchan, Harith Zarel O, Tamyuk Ho and Ian Willock have all returned. Also returning is Tanafa Warakatsupachok, the 34-year-old for Wara Race Energy. He hasn't competed this year, but I think he did take part last season. So good to see. Good Super Chop paddock. And the sixth man, also a returnee and also a veteran, is Alpesh Patel. Great to see the reigning Master X30 champion rejoin the foray in 2025. Good to see him back, and he will make his way out onto the circuit along with his fellow competitors. Great to see. Now, you are sitting there at home thinking, 6 competitors, that doesn't sound particularly impressive, but then it is the Master X30 in INFINITY IAME Series Asia, so he has been very competitive right from the start, and it's really been a fantastic story right from the beginning of the category this year. In the first 2 rounds, they were actually joined with the Senior X30 because we only had 2 or 3 on those occasions. Then we had as many as 5 in round 3, so we gave them their own final, and they've been given their own races ever since then, and the battles have been absolutely fantastic. And we're hoping that by the end of the season we'll have 10 Masters out there on the course. There is 1 round of the championship still to go on the 2nd weekend of September, so if there are any Master X30 drivers, kart racers over the age of 30 who think this sounds like a good idea to me, I can go for a victory, no problem at all, sir, then do please come and join the championship for that last round. You can get your interest registered, IAMESeriesAsia.com. Get yourselves on the grid for that. It's going to be a fantastic end to the season. And then, of course, that will be a nice warm-up for those of you who want to take part in the IAME Asia Finals, which are taking place in Macau in December. And all roads lead to the IAME Asia Pacific Games, which are taking place on the first weekend of February at the LYL International Circuit in Malaysia. So that's one to put in your diaries as well. Plenty of great race weekends to come. So the 6 drivers are now on their first flying lap, as we'll get to see who's going to go onto the top. Well, straight away it's going to be the treble 3, Thanafob Warakit Superchok. But is there going to be a challenge from the drivers behind? Tamyoko is not able to go faster. Harith Zaralo doesn't initially either. 391, that's Ian Willock. Now, interestingly, both Harith bin Zaralo and Ian Willock have changed chassis for this weekend. Harith bin Zaralo was on your box standard Tony kart in round 4. This weekend he's actually changed it, so you are watching his kart at the moment, or at least you were. That is the Carlos Sainz 55 chassis that he's racing, which is of course still part of the OTK group. There is the 358, that is Tam-Yuk Ho, the veteran from Hong Kong, 52 years of age and still racing strong for the Simon Racing team on his Falcon. Doing a great job at the moment, getting himself up to speed. There is the CS55 chassis of Harith bin Zaralo, the man who took the victory last time out. And it's great to see him on a new kart. New challenge for him as well, the man all in black. And it's kind of appropriate that he's on the CS55 chassis with its black, yellow and red colours of Spain. But the black in there really does make it stand out. And Harith bin Zaralo looks very, very cool in that particular chassis this weekend. So there's obviously going to be a chance for him to try and double up and make it 2 victories in a row here. Got a good chance to make it happen. Tam-Yuk-Ho, of course, still pushing on, but the top spot currently belongs to the Wara Race Energy of Thanafob Warakit Superchok. The treble 3 is currently fastest, returning to the Masters category, having had a very decent spell. In fact, Warakit is just about to come across the line now in the energy course. So he'll come off the final turn. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up the fastest driver on the track at the moment, because it is Thanafob with a 51.948. Harith bin Zaralo is only 8 thousandths of a second off that. He goes very wide out of the final turn and goes quickest, 51.596. So Harith bin Zaralo on the CS55 chassis that you're watching on your screen is now the fastest man in Master X30, ahead of Tam-Yuk Ho, who's gone second. So Tam-Yuk Ho, the man in front of him on the road, has actually gone second in the time screens until Alpesh Patel shows up. Then Alpesh Patel goes second. So the reigning champion, Alpesh Patel, straight back on with it. But now, past all of them, is Wedasak Imwachan. So Wedasak Imchan, the Thai driver, has gone quicker than all of them on the top 1 kart. And he's actually been rejoined this weekend by his son, who's joining the top 1 team once again, having had his foray into the F4 Southeast Asia Championship at the 2 Thai race weekends at Buriram and the Bang Seng Grand Prix weekend. Wow, that was a big rubber wild moment there from Harith bin Zaralo, who has lost the top spot. I'm told that his lap has actually been deleted. Oh no, my apologies, it's just been bettered. I do apologise. So Thanafob Warakit Superchok has now got into the lead. So the Wara Race Energy driver has gone quicker than them still. So very impressive stuff indeed then from the man on top. Tadapop Warakat Superchok ahead of Warasak Imchan, and then Harith Benzaralo, Alpesh Patel, Tam Yuko, and Ian Willock, who's actually been struggling at the moment to get his kart, which is a Gillard chassis, I do believe, this weekend, up to pace. No, my apologies. He appears to be on a CS55 as well. I'll just double check when he comes past my position, but it certainly doesn't look like a green and white Tony kart, as Harith Benzaralo is chasing Tam Yuko in order to get a faster lap time. So that could work out quite well for him. Just watching out of the final turn at the Gillard chassis going past me. That is the 391. That's being driven by Ian Willock. So it is a Gillard chassis. I was right the first time. And Alpesh Patel on his Stratos is doing likewise. It looks like he's also on a Gillard chassis. Great to see that there's still life in the old dog. As Harith Benzaralo decides, that's enough. I think I've got the most out of this kart that I'm going to get. And he ends on a 51.596. That is incredibly only 57 thousandths of a second off pole position, but it's still only good enough for third place. That's how tight it is in Master X30, isn't it? So the pole position looks like it's going to go the way of the Wara Race Energy course of Tarafob Warakat Superchok. The checkered flag goes out for Tam Yuko as he remains in P5. And everybody else, other than Alpesh Patel, has already come into the pits to finish the session. So here comes Alpesh Patel finishing his time trial. The reigning champion, does he go higher than fourth position? He does not. So the Singaporean will have to settle for P4 on the starting grid then. Wow, Master X30 definitely very exciting then, as the top three drivers are covered by less than a tenth of a... In fact, if you take Alpesh Patel into account as well, then all of the competitors in that group have been covered by 61 thousandths of a second. That is 61 thousandths of a second between the top four drivers in Master X30. That is crazy how close it is. So absolutely amazing to see just how tight it is between those four drivers. Stunning work. And so Tanafob Warakat Superchok is your pole sitter. Warasak Imchan in second from Harith Benzaralo, Alpesh Patel, Tam Yuko, and Ian Willock. So that is the Master X30 grid settled. There's just one more grid to figure out, and that is the Senior X30 lineup. So just one timed session left to run, and that is the Senior X30 battle, the core competitive grid of this championship, you could argue. We've got to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to everybody who's been involved in the weekend. Obviously to IAME Series Asia for running the event, to INFINITY for backing it for the entire season for a second year, IAME Thailand and IAME Endless Racing, the Sports Authority of Thailand, the Royal Automobile Association of Thailand as well, Superkart Thailand celebrating 30 years of its fantastic work, Comet Racing Tyres, Kinex, the promoter and organizer, 2W Karting, the Birrakart International Circuit, and MyLaps Sports Timing. All fantastic people who put this event together, and it's great to see all of that hard work is reflected in the amazing racing that we've got built up coming into this weekend. It is the biggest Junior X30 grid we've had all year, which is fantastic, and very strong grids again in both Cadet and Senior. It's also the biggest Master X30 grid that we've had all season. So growth continues on its magnificent trajectory in INFINITY IAME Series Asia. It's amazing to think that just under a year ago we struggled to put 50 drivers on the grid, and now we have got incredible wealth of talent and also some amazing breadth of nations competing, not just across the Asian countries of Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Philippines, Japan, and of course Malaysia and Thailand. But we've also got drivers from Oceania, across Australia, from Africa, one competitor from South Africa, and one competitor from the Americas, as well as, to my knowledge, 2 competitors from Europe as well. So it just shows you this is not just an Asian series anymore. It is a truly international affair. Great to see so many fantastic competitors from around the world competing in this competition. It is growing in stature and growing in pedigree every single weekend. And so to the business end of the championship in Senior X30, the big shock coming into this weekend is the absence of the championship leader, Toby Gale, who is not going to be able to compete. His commitments take him out of competition for the last 2 rounds. He was devastated, I'm told, because obviously leading the championship, he has a chance to become the Senior X30 champion, and the 2 remaining rounds of the series were on his home soil, so it couldn't be better set up for Toby Gale to become Senior X30 champion. Unfortunately, his European race commitments, where he's being looked after by Andrea Todisco, it's got in the way of him claiming the IAME Series Asia crown. His everybody else's gain, particularly the likes of Yuka Po, Zadia Vraikal and Kimi Chan, who now have the chance to become INFINITY IAME Series Asia champion. The green flags fly and everybody swarms out onto the circuit. Not your stereotypical qualifying session, because in the first moment of the session, Kimi Chan leads them out. And you know that if Kimi Chan is the first one to get out on the circuit, he means business, so go with him. Don't wait around. That's the thing in this category. When you've only got 6 minutes of racing, you don't have a lot of time to fool around in, so you better get out there and get your laps done. And as the race director made very clear in the driver's briefing, you're not to mess around, you're not to weave tyres, you're not to wait for a tow, you're not to roll on to wait for another competitor. If that happens, he has the power to stop the session and has intimated that he would do so. So the drivers do not have any advantages to gain by trying to claim a position or 2. They're just getting on with the session now. So straight on with it goes Kimi Chan, knowing that he's got good pace. And now, with 2 races to go in the championship, the man who's actually missed a round because he was focusing on Chinese F4, where he's been a podium finisher in his first season in car racing, he's now got a chance to make it back-to-back championships. He is a bit of an outsider for that, because his points tally is not in his favour, if we're being honest. But he does have the opportunity to make it happen, so there's every reason why he will just be pushing so hard for the last 2 weekends of the season, if indeed he can make both weekends of the season. He's here for this one, as the DRM racing team are hoping that either Kimi Chan or his teammate Zadia Vraikal are going to get to the top spot. It's going to be fiercely competitive for that pole position, and there's even a couple of returning drivers who might be able to make it happen. Prasetyo Hadia was very quick indeed in practice. Cooper Fish has been looking even quicker than Kai Burke at times, although Kai Burke has just set the first flying lap of 50.912, the first of the seniors, 51-second mark. So it's looking particularly competitive already here. That's exactly what we were hoping to see. Some really good battles. But it is effectively with Toby and Austin Gale both having to sit out the remainder of the championship. The championship leader effectively becomes Yuka Po, who's on 95 points, to Zadia Vraikal, who is on 86. Kai Burke is on 76, and Kimi Chan is on 70. And then a long way back on 44 is Shavish Sentil, who has a real outside shot of the title, but he has to be perfect with all of his championship contenders not scoring at all in the last 2 rounds. So effectively, it is going to be you, Vraikal, Burke and Chan for the championship title. There is Kai Burke, the 281, looking to push for the top spot. He was there briefly, but now Kimi Chan has got it back, and it's a DRM whitewash at the front. 1, 2, 3 and 4, Chan, Hardia and Kanjanapas, although INF1NITY has managed to get himself into 4th position. That's the lad and dad independent in 4th place. So clearly, local knowledge really helping him out. But we haven't seen the big killer lap yet from Yuka Po. He hasn't brought the Explorer up to the top end. Zadia Vraikal is 5th. Andy Bure in a brilliant 6th place ahead of Shavish Sentil. Then Wadapong Amchan is currently in 8th position. So good to see him back, and he's certainly learnt a lot from his single-seater foray at Bangsain and Budoram. 9th position, and then in 10th place is Wadapong Komabrakul, as Panikon Adam Rasami gets himself up into 8th place now behind Cooper Fish. Daing Ibrahim has come up into 5th place, the Malaysian doing a great job. And Zadia Braikal manages to overtake the 213 CRG driver. I think that's Andy Bourret. So is overtaken for a place on the road. As Andy Bourret now drops out of the top 10. As Kimi Chan now leads Hardia, Burke, Tanya Nachanai, Kanjanapas, and Nikhil Bora in P6. So the former Formula Regional Middle East winner and Indian Racing League race winner, who has his license in India but lives out in Singapore at the moment, is now up in the top 10. And Yuka Po goes straight into P6 with his first flying lap. Panikorn Adam Rasami has gone quicker, as has Clifford Kanjanapas now, as Kimi Chan holds on to the top spot. First one out onto the circuit, currently topping the timesheets. So 28 drivers pushing to try and get that pole position, and it's Kimi Chan leading from Hardia, Burke, Tanya Nachanai, Kanjanapas, Ibrahim, Raikal, Adam Rasami, Yu, Bora, and Sutomo Nishimura is in 11th place. Nishimura doing a fantastic job considering he's the oldest driver in the weekend. Yes, he's not even competing in Masters, he's competing in Seniors. Now I did ask him about this. He said, look, I know I'm old enough to be a Master, and to be fair, last year when he competed in Master X30, any race he started, he dominated. But he does meet the weight requirements for Senior X30. So he felt, well, why not really challenge myself? I'm going to give it a go against the Senior X30 drivers. He's racing against drivers 40 years his junior. That is absolutely astonishing work from Sutomo Nishimura to be knocking on the door of the top 10. Kimi Chan goes quicker still, 50.275. So 50.275 for Kimi Chan, a couple of thousandths of a second quicker, and that keeps him in provisional pole position. So Kimi Chan doing a great Prasetyo Hardia, Kai Burke, Ananton Tangnyanachanai, then Clifford Kanjanapas, Daing Ibrahim, Zadia Braikal, and Panikorn Anamasami, Yukapo and Nikhil Bora, then Ayan Marwa, Sutomo Nishimura, and in 13th place is the Australian Cooper Fish, who was a bit of a comeback kid last time after his bin in the start of the final. The race was restarted and he was able to get going again. 14th for Wadapong Imachan, and then Wadawong Komarkul, Andy Barrett, Shavish Sentil, and Put Sintichunrawang. Now we've got the checkered flag out. So the checkered flag comes through, and it's going to be a top spot run all the way. A fantastic performance then on the top of the timesheets for Kimi Chan. No worries at all there. Look as though anybody's going to be able to beat his time. But Kimi Chan, the Hong Kong sensation, the reigning Senior X30 champion, trying his best to try and claim that title back. He puts himself into pole position for the 2 heats today. Excellent work from Kimi Chan. He always finds that extra something special. Brilliant work from Kimi Chan here. Ahead of Prasetyo Hardia, Kai Burke, and Anantorn Tangnyanachanai in 4th position. But what a fantastic run from Kimi Chan. Behind the top 4, it is incredibly 5th position, going way of Clifford Kanjanapas, then Daing Ibrahim, Zadia Braikal and Panikorn Adam Rasami, Yukapo and Nikhil Bora round out the top 10 in front of Ayan Marwa, Sutomo Nishimura, Andy Barrett, Cooper Fish, and in 15th position it is Wadapong Imchan, or Putter as he is known of course, making his return to the INFINITY IAME Series Asia after his F4 Southeast Asian adventure. Wadawong Komarkul is 16th in front of Shavish Sentil, Put Sintichut Rungrang, Thomas George, and then Megat Zulkarnain in front of Rafael Kamal, Jiggy Javier, and Zachary Boyce, who is in 23rd position, still having a tough time of it, but finding Senior X30 incredibly competitive in 2025. And then he's just in front of the new boy from Singapore, Rafael Weissen, for the Biralat Racing Asia team. Miguel Quinones really struggling for pace this time on a 51.07 for the Dr. Q Motorsports team. And then the returning Jenny Bibinet ahead of Tien Runchin and Melvin Shane. 28 competitors, they all get the lap times in. And so it's been a very competitive run, but Kimi Chan grabs the pole position in Senior X30. We're going to take our lunch break. When we come back, it'll be time for Heat 1 in all 4 categories.
Bye.